Carlson, and this is episode 206 of Gaming with Grief, and I'm calling this episode a God of War Ragnarok Spoilercast. But I want to remind you guys that this podcast will hit my website, www.gamewithgrief.com, Monday morning at 7 a.m. So please go there and let me know what you think of the show. You can also write to me at GWG Podfellows and let me know what you think of the show as well. If there's a game you want me to review, you can leave it there. You can also subscribe to the podcast in either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Amazon Music in the podcast section, or Spotify. And the video will go up on Spotify Monday evening. So it'll go up Monday morning on the website and Monday evening on Spotify. And the video, if you like YouTube, the video version of this goes up on YouTube Monday morning at 7 a.m. So go to those places, give me the ratings, the stars, the likes, all that kind of stuff. I really appreciate it. But yeah, let's get into God of War 2018. I'm sorry, God of War Ragnarok. I did it. I was looking at both these games while I was reviewing it, like going back over old footage, kind of how both games come together. But yeah, let's talk about God of War Ragnarok. So how I feel about this game. I think in the deep dive, I was very excited to see where things go. Things that I thought were going to happen, if that makes sense. I mean, this is a spoiler cast, so let's be honest. I'm going to spoil God of War Ragnarok. So you've been warned. Walk away. If you haven't played the game or finished the game, walk away until you're able to do that, or maybe you just don't care about spoilers in that case. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, so basically in the deep dive, I was kind of amazed, not only that I was correct, because sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes I hope that certain things take place and they don't, and it makes me kind of sad. You know, if you think the story, especially with grief, is going in a certain direction, and I think maybe How to Say Goodbye was an example of that, where I thought maybe it was going to be this profound kind of abstract statement on grief, and I don't think it was. It wasn't a bad game. I just don't think it did. It didn't do anything so profound. I think finishing this game, what I realized is that this game doubles down and triples down a lot of this stuff that I talked about in the deep dive. Kratos and Atreus / Loki kind of agree that they should, I don't know the right word to use, but basically they part ways at the end, and not in a terrible way, but the fact that Loki knows that he has to go on his own. And I think Kratos has a beautiful line where he says, Loki can go, but Atreus will stay, and he touches his heart, knowing that, he'll have his son, but now Atreus has grown up and become Loki, and Loki has to go he has to go find the other giants that he knows is there. One thing I do appreciate about this game, from a gameplay perspective, any open world game, you have a really good time. I had a really good time playing it. I want to play more of it. But you think, oh man, do I have to do New Game Plus to go do all the extra stuff that I wanted to do? You don't. The game, you have these incredibly heartfelt cinematics with Atreus and the other members of your war party, like Freya and I totally spaced on his name, Mimir, and Sif and her daughter, Thrud. All that is amazing. You have these moments where you get to talk to him. You talk to some of Freyr's brother, Freyr, his war party as well. All this was just pretty amazing, and you get a moment, and then at the end it opens up and says, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to go, do these favors, these side quests? Do you want to go do those? Do you want to, find the pieces of, Midgard fell, Asgard? One of the realms fell to Earth, which is pretty crazy. And I just think what they've said is pretty powerful. I was right in the deep dive, the idea that two people can say goodbye to each other and grow apart, especially father and son. When you get to a certain age, you have to say, I have to go my own way. Hopefully your father or parent understands that and allows you to do that. And it seems like this game did that. Also, there was something I was very surprised about. In the middle of the game, Odin obviously is a big presence in this game. You've seen him in trailers, him and Thor. Odin wants Loki's help. He's trying to find something. He's literally peeking into a crack in creation almost, and trying to figure out what's going on. And I think all that was interesting because he brought up the point that he doesn't have Valhalla. There's nothing left for him at the end. And he doesn't know what's next. And I like that idea of exploring legacy in a way that we would say, why am I doing all this? What is it for? What am I leaving behind? What comes after me? did I leave my mark? And that's really what Odin's dealing with. But what I like is when you look at it from one perspective, the idea that it wouldn't be good enough to just be in the moment and say, this is what I'm doing right now. People always want to leave a legacy. Maybe that's with your children, or you want to make a great work of art, or you want to leave some lasting thing, like maybe build a building, or, maybe educate people and leave a legacy of that. This idea of being obsessed with the legacy, I think, is really interesting. And I do like how the game kind of, in the end, it doesn't really matter. Odin did hurt a lot of people, and he did some stuff, especially at the battle at the end of Ragnarok, when he left a bunch of basically civilians at the gate when he knew the gate was going to be attacked, and they died, because he knew they would be in the way. And I like, there's tons of good moments even before that with Atreus and Kratos, where Kratos literally has a humbling moment and apologizes to his son and says, I've kind of fallen into my own ways. I'm angry. I need to be more open with you. And then they come up to this agreement that they bring up a few times afterwards, which is Atreus says, if we're not together, think of my counsel in your head. Because Atreus has a really big heart. And because Atreus says, I try to think of what you taught me when I'm alone. So you think of what I want to teach you when you're alone, what I've said to you about being different. And then there's this amazing line where Kratos says, I'm sorry. And Atreus says, don't be sorry, be better. And I think that's great. And that after that line is kind of said, the whole game kind of pushes this idea of just be better. We can be better. In fact, the last fight with Thor, you fight Thor again, Kratos does. And it's a thing of, he says before Kratos stops him, before, they're both winded and obviously been fighting a long time. And he says, we need to be better for the sake of our children, because again, what kind of example is that if you tell your son you're a better person and that you've changed and you rip Thor's hat off in front of him and go, all right, we got to go home. It doesn't really show that, no good things have come from. I'm trying to look at my notes here to make sure I didn't, the line at the end, the last night before Ragnarok. Can I just say this as a side thing? I'm sure Kratos did have a good night's sleep, but they would show him having a vision, because showing someone lay on a cot is boring. And then for story purposes, you want to have this moment with him and his wife. I want to say Faye, but I think that's not her full name. Maybe that's her nickname. Anyway, I think that having a moment with her where she's marking the trees of what she wants him to cut down to be cremated. He disagrees with that because obviously, and he said we would entomb the dead. She said, why? So I'd be trapped forever basically with you. This idea where he says, I don't know why we're thinking about this now, why you're planning so much. And she says, you basically need to be prepared. And or maybe she was sick. I'm not sure. But she talks about, she has this line, she says, the culmination of a love is grief. And I thought that was amazing. She was played by Deborah Ann Wool, which I think was great. It was kind of a surprise. I didn't know Deborah Ann Wool was in the game. And to see her pop up was pretty amazing. And she did a great job. And I like this idea of, the culmination of love is grief, WandaVision did that a little bit on Marvel. They said, what is grief if not love everlasting? This idea that something lives on after you perish. And this idea with Odin too, they have a similar thing, spoilers again. You're fighting Thor. Thor kind of comes to his senses, as Kratos, you say, we need to be better for our children. He has a moment of contemplation. Obviously, Odin doesn't like that and shows up and says, you need to kill Kratos. Do it. I don't pay you to, I don't pay you to think, basically. I pay you to act, to kill that guy. And he stabs Thor and throws him away, which is crazy because Thor kind of outlived his usefulness. And even Odin at the end said, well, Atreus at the final battle, they all have a moment because they're all beaten up. And Atreus says, you made these choices. And Odin said, no, I didn't. He did it to himself. And Atreus said, no, you made these choices, and he says, well, what? There's nothing, I don't have anything. And he wanted Atreus, obviously, to put this mask on and look into creation. And Atreus broke it and scattered it. That's probably another side quest for after the credits. But, legacy and prophecy and all this stuff is hinted upon in the game. Not hinted, they do explore it. And I like the idea of there is a moment in it where it says, "Oh, um, we're kind of doing everything that is on those tapestries or paintings for Ragnarok. I guess this is how it should be." But within those things, they don't kill Odin. The team, Freya comes to help, Atreus and Kratos, they basically put Odin's soul in a marble, and Sindri breaks it, the dwarf, after his brothers died by the hands of Odin. And I like his last line where he breaks the marble after Odin's soul's been put in, and because Odin kept saying, "What comes after?" And after the dwarf smashes the marble, he said, "That's what comes next. That's what comes after. Nothing. And really, I think it is an interesting thing to have. They always describe Odin as a spiteful person, and you do see that he's obviously willing to do whatever it takes. Like I said, he put civilians at the gate because he knew they were going to be attacked. But the idea that you were so hell bent, literally, they went to Helheim. Anyway, he's so hell bent on a legacy that it kind of just makes him oblivious to everything else that is happening around him, and it totally pushes his thoughts, feelings, all that kind of stuff in that direction. And it was like, whoa, this isn't him being cruel for cruel's sake. He's not like a one note villain. The thing is, he wants to have a monument, and him having a statue isn't enough for his feeling. I'll say, for me, to take a step back and just talk about gameplay for a little bit, loved the story, loved everything that was going on with the game. The only thing I didn't like for myself personally was the menus. Like, I don't care about the upgrades. I wanted to upgrade the Leviathan axe and the Chains of Chaos, the Chaos Blades, because they're so iconic and they looked amazing when you upgraded them. And I think that, all the other stuff of here's 800 skill things, if you hit back and right trigger, this will happen, and left. And I didn't care about any of that. I really thought the writing and stuff was genuine, but there's a lot of min-maxers out there that I'm sure will love doing tons of combos and all this and just beating the crowd. Like, I was able to get the game on kind of normal difficulty, and I was still, kind of blown away. And I think it's all that stuff. Again, thematically, they kept everything open, so at the end you can go do these things where it's a little bit like Ghost of Tsushima, actually, the idea of rebuilding after a big battle, where they say, Kratos says, "There's much to rebuild. Will you help me?" and talks to Freya and Mimir. And they said, "Of course." And so now you're going to go through the realms, kind of clean up loose ends, and if you want to platinum the game, you can do that. I'm thinking of doing that maybe later. I want to platinum God of War 2018 first before I move on, and then maybe replay it a little bit to see kind of what's going on. I don't know. Like I said, I looked up a lot of the correlations between the two, and I'm kind of blown away. But this game did an amazing job. All the performances, I know Kratos is the star and Atreus is the star. But there's something about the ensemble that was so captivating that I just wanted to keep playing the game. And I finished it, and it was great. And, I think the testament to any good work of art, whether it be a book, a movie, you either want to watch it again, you want to read it again, a game you want to keep playing. This definitely left me with that feeling where I just wanted to continue to play it because I didn't want everything that I experienced to end, and that's a testament to the game. And the idea that they could tackle all these things at once, and it kind of wraps up in an incredibly fulfilling way, What is legacy? How do a father and son reconcile, which I talked about before, kind of step away from each other on good terms, Since Loki is going on his journey, he probably will run into Kratos, I would imagine. But I don't think, obviously, they're not going to be mad at each other. They're going to be excited to see each other. And that'll be something. They said these two are done. I mean, not everything has to be a trilogy. And I think Sony Santa Monica said that this is the last part of the Norse story or whatever. But maybe Loki is another main character. There may be more. There may be more to tell. Obviously, there may be some DLC. I'm not sure. But I'm definitely going to look up and see what they're doing next, what is happening. And I'm trying to think of what else. I think that's it. This is going to definitely be on my top 10 list for this year. The breadth of the game. I think I spent like 35 hours because I'm terrible. I'm a mediocre gamer. There was a couple of combat things where I sucked, especially towards the end with Ragnarok, where they kind of make you go in one murder box after another. And you just I said this before, but when you read a book or read a book, especially for me, I kind of speed up towards the end because if I'm really into it, I just can't wait for the ending. And this idea of go do this, go do that. Many times they say, well, do you want to go do something else? Do you want to go do something else before we move on? And I just basically followed the path. I think there was some things early on I did to get my armor set. But other than that, I really wanted to see this thing through. For me, it was the main path, which was compelling enough for me to keep playing the game. So, yeah, I don't know what else I could really say. It's a great game. If you haven't played it and you're listening to this, wow. Well, I just spoiled a bunch for you, but play it. But yeah, I think that's it this week. But I want to remind you guys that this podcast will hit my website, www.gamesgrief.com, Monday morning at 7 a.m. Please go there and leave a comment and let me know what you think of the show. You can also write to me at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com. So write to me there. Again, let me know what you think of the show. Maybe there was a comment in an episode you like. Maybe you want to ask me a question. Maybe a suggestion of a game you want me to play. Go to those places and interact with me there. You can also subscribe to the podcast on either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Amazon Music in the podcast section, or Spotify. And the video for this will go up Spotify on Monday evening. So if you want to watch the video, just wait till Monday evening. Give me all the ratings there and everything. And again, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, yeah, find me on Twitter at JustLittleJoe. So go to those places or interact with me those ways, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I think that's it. I will talk to you guys again next week. Have a good week.